Welcome, race fans, back to the Ukrainian Racing League. And my name is Weboo here to join you for today's coverage. We are back at the Ukrainian Racing League's 2025 F4 Championship. It's round 2 of the championship, and we are at the ferocious RoadAtlanta racetrack for today's race. Currently, the drivers just finishing up the last minute and a half of practice. We had some incredible action in the first round of the season. If you haven't caught up with that just yet, then do go back and watch that. I won't give you a great deal of spoilers, but just know that we had several 3-car pilots. We had 2 safety cars. We had protests after the race with some penalties and some things that were let go. But it's been a tremendous start to this season. I think we're going to have even more drivers for you as well, as the drivers are just getting ready. Hi to Sir Grinch, a friend from another league who's here to support Lucas. And as I say, we're hoping to check in with some new people, some new faces. I can see Ismael Fernandez, who didn't take part in round 1, a very, very quick driver that I know from elsewhere. And he is currently showing us 6th fastest in qualifying, some 8/10 off the fastest time that is set by Eldar Noohi. And this is just practice. We're heading into qualifying, a 10-minute qualifying session very, very soon. This is Richard Lucas, though, in the McDonald's style red and yellow of his Formula 4 race car. Racing out of Haiti is Lucas. But also we've got Kamto Chukureh and Gergo Danko currently showing in the top positions then in practice. That may not be, some drivers like to keep their powder dry, like to take it easy in practice and not reveal their hand too early. So I don't want to make any assumptions, but Illia Rakitin also in 4th place, the highest placed Ukrainian driver, with Kyra Krassenburg showing in 5th ahead there of Ismael. Fernandez, looks like the timer has reached its culmination. We are ready then for what appears to be a sunny day at this point in qualifying, at least in RoadAtlanta, but we may be in for a little bit of weather as well. The 444, Scott Edwards, racing out of the United Kingdom with the red and light green car design. He is ready to get underway. Obviously, it's a very on-trend racetrack for us to be in position for today, with Petit Le Mans having just been taken care of. This is a slightly updated livery for Danylo Donets, with a 50-50 split down the centre line. I always quite like that, although it does make life a little bit tricky for the commentator when we view the cars from the side. The 161 there, Danylo Donets, ready then in the Stewart Racing team. There it is, a nice close-up of his livery and logos. Lots of sponsorship on the car, which you like to see, as he just gets himself ready then for the start of this qualifying session. Back with Lucas, and he's racing in the 723. As we look forward to seeing how our drivers get on with their start of their qualifying hour. I can see the relative times. We've got Kamto Chukureh, Ismael Fernandez, looking like he is some 20.2 seconds faster at this stage, but I'm sure it won't be quite so large. Gergo Danko then for Hungary in the Racing Bulls livery, car number 6, just climbing the hill, navigating the turn 2 entry in towards the famous S's section, a sequence of 5 official corners, more like 7 or 8 when you actually count it, but the S's are counted as 4A, 4B and 4C as we run through the run. You've got to be careful with track limits on the exit there. I think that line for Gergo Danko would not count for a fast lap, as it looks like Eldar Noohi possibly putting in some good times at this stage. Car in front of Gergo Danko there, as he navigates the double right, the 6-7 at the south end of the racetrack. Qualifying, as I said, it's 1/4 over already, and we haven't got our first flying lap times yet. There's Kamto Chukureh, and it leading the run down the downhill now towards the final chicane of turns 10 and 10A is Eldar Noohi, who was definitely one of the quickest drivers in the 2 races we had for you at our amazing Laguna Seca round. Didn't always work out perfectly for Eldar Noohi, but he'd be hoping to keep a clean set of wheels today as he crosses the line to start. To finish his first flying lap, a 1:21.580. Danylo Donets in second position and Dmytro Zalozhnikov in third place at this stage. We'll see. Running out onto the grass there, I'm sure that will suck away some of the time. Kamto Chukureh has gone faster. Still then, a 1:21.507 in the number 14. This is Dmytro Zalozhnikov. He has managed to set a sixth fastest time so far, which is 1.6 seconds off the fastest. I see Kyra Krassenburg in the 1:17. She's got herself just 4/10 away from the outright from the gap in front for the front row position. Zalozhnikov for Team RLR in the 6:96 as we ride with him. Waiting to see everybody complete those first laps. I imagine some drivers have gone a little bit too hard on the first flying laps and have outdone themselves a little bit and having to rein it back in again. A nice camouflage style livery for Kyra Krassenburg with a turquoise and red accents throughout the car. Kyra racing the 1:17. Very new to iRacing, but not new to sim racing, Kyra. So she has plenty of experience on other sim platforms, but it's always a difficult job to translate speed from one sim to another. So we'll see as she goes in towards that 10A and 10B corner sequence. We're taking the more direct route underneath the Michelin-sponsored building and overpass there as we cross the line. Kyra Krassenburg then no quicker on her second flying lap as we wait to see then. She will have a few cars in front. We've got Illia Rakitin then, the 375 Foundation Team RLR, and one of the hot favourites going into the championship, notwithstanding the fact that we've got different nationalities and more drivers taking part here in the 2025 F4 Championship with the Ukraine Racing League. Not just Ukrainian drivers, but it's an international grid. Rodrigo Bassalo appears on track there for a moment, and I hadn't seen what times he was able to put in. Roma Sorokivskyi, he's managing on the 1:13, a 2.8 seconds slower lap. Some 9/10 away from Richard Lucas. That's the top 9, and there's a car off, and there is Danylo Donets with a huge oversteer moment. I think that was in the S's as we see some dirt brought onto the racetrack as well. And back with Eldar Noohi then, still yet to set a time. He's following the 57. That might be helping him a little bit on the long flat-out run between turn 7 and all the way down to the final chicane here. The 57 getting a little bit loose. That's Brandon Devine for the United States here. No team affiliation at this point. I'm sure the drivers will organise themselves into teams throughout the course of the season. But as he goes to cross the line, Brandon Devine sets a 4th fastest time. That's Eldar Noohi from Gergo Danko, Kamto Chukureh, Kyra Krassenburg, and Brandon Devine. Then your top 5 at this point. We're only seeing the top 10 on the tower, but we do have more drivers than that. Overall, we'll hope to see more drivers set a competitive or valid lap time with just 3.5 minutes to go in this qualifying session. This will set the grid for the sprint race and for later on the feature race. Sprint race, 20-minute race here, and then we will have the feature race of double that length, 40 minutes. Do say hello if you're joining us today. There's a little wide moment for Gergo Danko as he hangs the tail out but rescues it very nicely. Do say hi. We're always interested to include you in the live stream today, and let us know who you're here to support. We're very grateful to everybody who tunes in live, but I know that the drivers especially love to see that they've been supported throughout. Going into turn 1, the number 6, and he is really now pushing very hard. He can afford to with a front row provisional start, but in fact, I think he's gone straight back to the pit lane as Illia Rakitin looks to put himself up into a better position on 1:21.594. He goes into 4th place, and Kyra Krassenburg will pit now. I wonder if there's time for a tyre change or not at this stage. 2.5 minutes left to go before the checker flag flies, and you must finish the lap that you are on. Who have we got here? This is Kamto Chukureh. A change in livery. Lots of drivers just updating their liveries here. Number 14 for Chukureh, and Rodrigo Bassalo, one of our newcomers here to the league since the Laguna Seca round, racing in number 2. Or is that 12? I think that's 2. There's Scott Edwards in the 444 as he comes through. All the 4s available for Scott Edwards. Scott Edwards currently managing an 8th position, no better on that lap, as Richard Lucas, currently 12th, comes through. We're yet to see. No, I can say we have got Ismael Fernandez, the Spaniard, who's managed to get himself into 5th place at the moment. His first target, I'm sure, will be to try and beat Kyra Krassenburg, rivals from another league and another sim platform, nonetheless. But I'm sure Ismael Fernandez has big dreams about being very, very quick indeed. He's showing as an all-grey car. I think he's supposed to be in a Alonso era, champion era Renault blue and yellow scheme, which wouldn't surprise me as a Spaniard racing driver, as Roma Sorokivskyi in the for the Ukrainian team in the 113. He has managed to achieve some sponsorship from Trading Paint. I think he's going to get out of the way of the driver in front that was just passing and try and build himself for the final flying lap. These are now the final laps for these drivers with a 1:21 average lap time. We will see it's a 1:21.099 for Eldar Noohi, 1/4 of a second faster than Kamto Chukureh. That's quite a big gap in qualifying, but racecraft and race pace are very different indeed. As Lucas in the 7.23, currently 12th, some 2.3 seconds off the ultimate pace, but he will be targeting an 11th place position on this final flying lap. Who's still pushing? Who's still got the opportunity? I see Kamto Chukureh in the pit lane, as is Illia Rakitin, Scott Edwards, and Dmytro Zalozhnikov. So the rest of the drivers out there and pushing hard. Ismael Fernandez stretching every limit of the track on the approach into the final push round, and he has crossed the line with 6 seconds to spare. Ismael Fernandez hopefully able to complete the lap he's on, but the checkered flag has fallen. The time is up, and I think that everybody done it. Eldar Noohi, who's the fastest driver ahead of Kamto Chukureh, Gergo Danko and Illia Rakitin, as we get ready for our first heat race here, the sprint race length of just 20 minutes of racing. Gergo Danko in 3rd, Illia Rakitin in 4th, with Ismael Fernandez, Kyra Krassenburg sharing that 3rd row. That's really intriguing to me. Brandon Devine and Scott Edwards in 7th and 8th, with Dmytro Zalozhnikov and Danylo Donets in 9th and 10th. Rodrigo Bassalo, Richard Lucas, Roma Sorokivskyi, and Andy Philpott taking the remaining spots on the grid so far. As the drivers grid up, they'll be starting on the curve, on the final curve, what is essentially turn number 11, by the odd way that RoadAtlanta counts its turn numbers. But we will just basically have to go with it as we go in towards turn 1, and then we'll be heading into the difficult S section, which is a very, very challenging way to start a race. So Eldar Noohi, Kamto Chukureh, as they were in the previous round, sharing the front row at the top spots of our qualifying position, and we get ready for the race, as it should be underway very, very soon. You can see the light gantry has appeared. Eldar Noohi, Chukureh, Danko Rakitin, your top 4, and it's dropped the clutch. Go, go, go. We have a green flag. It's time to go. I think there was a little bit of a delayed reaction from our drivers, but essentially it's all equaled its way out as the Formula 4 cars streak in towards turn 1. And it's Eldar Noohi who's got a good jump ahead, but Kamto Chukureh is challenging. Might be able to go with Noohi here, but he's not quite able to stretch out into a challenge. Eldar Noohi with the lead. A big change. Ismael Fernandez, Roma Sorokivskyi have dropped down to the back of the grid here, and that will be a very disheartening way to start the race for those great drivers as they're going side by side through the S's towards the back of the grid. That could well have been Kyra Krassenburg and Roma Sorokivskyi. And there's a replay. There is cars climbing over each other. I count at least 3 cars who had contact in that race. It looks like we have a yellow flag. Let's see what happens as Brandon Devine. Well, we see an empty track at the moment. Just checking out what's happening here. That is. Well, that's going to cause some friction with Kyra Krassenburg and Ismael Fernandez coming together. And then, unfortunately, Brandon Devine hopping over the nose and being pushed wide from the halo of Ismael Fernandez Formula 4 car. We have cars scattered as they take avoiding action, dirt flying all over the shop. And this is what I was talking about, the difficulty of navigating those early few corners here at RoadAtlanta. Let's track it all the way back and see exactly what happened. Ismael Fernandez, I guess, is about halfway in, halfway alongside as he turns into the corner. Perhaps Kyra Krassenburg not quite able to see, but she did leave a gap. Looks like Ismael Fernandez had some understeer at the apex of the corner. And unfortunately, while the wheel was turned to the right, he was traveling straight, and the contact resulting in a big start issue for our drivers. I'm not quite sure whether we have any pace car, safety car in action at the moment, as Kyra Krassenburg was then left fighting for her life in 11th place as the drivers found her and had to try and find a way through. Here she is, Kyra Krassenburg, then all the way down. We have I think it's a full course yellow at this stage. I don't see the pace car. Maybe we are under pace car conditions. We'll just wait to see if the pace car has come out. But the drivers, there it is. In fact, yes, indeed. So our iRacing Porsche safety car is controlling the pace for the moment. Racing rules here at the Ukrainian Racing League dictate that if 3 or more cars are involved in an incident, we will call for a safety car just to bring the pack back together again. A 2-car incident, mostly and largely, is between the 2 drivers themselves. We will settle it later on, but obviously a multi-car incident there to start our race. The clock does not stop though during the safety car, as we saw in the feature race last week. Even if it's inconvenient, it still continues to run. The safety car then will bring everybody together. Tyre temperatures will be dropping here. The drivers aren't really trying to keep the temperatures up in the tyres. I don't see a lot of weaving or riding the brakes. Possibly you don't tend to see that, but some drivers will just rest their left foot on the brake just to try and keep the brakes into temperature. Be moving around the brake balance as well, just to make sure. I'm perplexed to see why our safety car driver isn't wearing a helmet. Obviously, he feels incredibly safe in that Porsche. And there is Kyra Krassenburg there, down to 11th place from a 3rd row start with Ismael Fernandez. And they go into the pit lane. I wonder if this, with Richard Lucas in front, I wonder if this is for repairs here. Kyra Krassenburg just pulling across to the slow lane, essentially, to get into her pit box. Although they are running, they're actually overtaking one another in the pit lane here. So clearly Richard Lucas not quite at the pit lane speed limit, or possibly Kyra Krassenburg over it. We will see as they will stop. You can see that adds insult to injury there, as Kyra Krassenburg has to go past and then back behind Ismael Fernandez that she had the incident with earlier on. Obviously, Richard Lucas may have just gone for a change in tyres. Looks like much more in the way of repairs happening. There is a 2nd car behind Ismael Fernandez. I think that's Brandon Devine, and there's a significant amount of damage to repair. They will be hoping that the repair is actioned in time before the end of this 3rd lap, where the drivers will, I'm assuming, have to go back to green flag racing conditions, but not the best of starts here, as the drivers are getting used to these F4 cars in what is a very low grip and high drama circuit. There, now we see the weaving then from Eldar Noohi, and he'll be very keen to just continue to stamp his authority on this F4 championship. Of course, the points are all important. You never know when you're going to have a bad day, or you might have to miss a race. So despite the fact that we drop scores here, we drop the worst scores, it is very important that the drivers continue to push for every available position. We've got a 26 degree ambient temperature in centigrade. That's a 38 degrees centigrade track temperature. Fairly high humidity, 42%. Clear at the moment in the sky, and a very, very low crosswinds here for the drivers for roughly a south to southeasterly wind. You can see the winds just hovering around between 145 and 175 degrees from the north point on the compass. As we get ourselves ready, we'll see if Eldar Noohi, if the safety car has dropped his turn the lights out. And I wonder if Brandon Devine and Ismael Fernandez have been able to get back out of the pits. It looks like, at the moment at least, the lights are still flashing on the safety car, so we might be going round again as they cross the line. We are indeed. So the safety car holding our drivers continually as we wait to see if our drivers at the back. It looks like Brandon Devine may have got going again, and Israel Fernandez has just come out of the pits. I just saw a flash there. So he's going to go one lap down, possibly two, and that will not feel good for the number 23 here, who's gathering his experience, and a very unusual place for a driver of his caliber to be, back in 14th and dead last position here. There is Brandon Devine. His Formula 4 car has been fully repaired despite going skybound. I forget now whether Brandon Devine was involved in the 3-car shunt in the previous round, but we've had a few of them. The drivers just get entangled, and they learn to take things a little bit easier on the opening lap and during the course of our championship, because of course it's going to make life very difficult to restart this race. Here is the number 57 then, Brandon Devine, doing his best to catch the rear of the snake, which is the safety car control grid. Ismael Fernandez some 17.2 seconds further back down the road from Brandon Devine, but the times, of course, are dropping. I can't quite see from my position at the moment how close to finishing the lap the leaders and the safety car currently are, but we shall catch up with them soon. So they are on the final straightaway, and there you can see the lights have gone out on the safety car. So that is an indication to Eldar Noohi that he will be the outright leader of the race once again. The safety car getting ready. All the drivers are weaving now. They've seen the indication. Either they're copying each other or they've seen what's going on. There is Brandon Devine coming through turn 7. He'll do well to catch the tail, but he'll have a roasting hot, perfect temperature tyres and be able to possibly further catch the drivers in front then by the time he reaches the top of the grid. I have a frozen footage. There we go. We're back here, and that was a quick look then, I think, at the start procedure. The safety car peels into the pit lane, and Eldar Noohi will now control the field until he decides to go. There is your green flag. We are go for the remainder of this sprint race, and Eldar Noohi stealing a good march then on Kamto Chukureh, who has Gergo Danko not far behind at all, just about 0.2 of a second from Eldar Noohi to Chukureh. And there is Gergo Danko in the Racing Bulls with the yellow nose livery of the number 6. All the cars are identical, of course, here in Spec Series Racing, and that is Kamto Chukureh then with the yellow streak running down the side of the car, black underside and white body, no red on his car to distinguish it from Gergo Danko. But Gergo Danko looking for an opportunity to make the overtake. Here is Scott Edwards getting a good apex coming on out of turn 7. Then this is lap 5 overall. And coming up to the halfway point of our sprint race in time anyway, as we run through. There is Scott Edwards catching the car in front with taking advantage of the slipstream. Scott Edwards has gone for the inside line. Here he is then, side by side with, I think that's Rodrigo Bassalo, as we've got Kyra Krassenburg and Danylo Donets going for the move. Kyra Krassenburg yielding and almost opening the door to Danylo Donets behind there, as she was fighting with, I think that was Zalozhnikov. I think then Scott Edwards had to stay behind Rodrigo Bassalo, and we get some drivers just sticking a wheel or two over the grass. But Eldar Noohi leads by 0.7 of a second from Kamto Chukureh, and an equal gap back to Gergo Danko Illia Rakitin still in the hunt for a sprint race podium. Here he is, P4 in focus. The camera is very close to his face on his picture. That's a very close-up shot as we run through then. Danylo Donets in 10th place, and that's contact further with Kyra Krassenburg, I think, who's spun out into the gravel, and that's got Edwards off on the grass as well on the same lap. I don't think they are related incidents. Scott Edwards losing the car as the car crests over the hill into turn 3, and unfortunately out onto the grass, losing places, and perhaps a couple of opportunities there for Ismael Fernandez to catch back up. This is a replay of Kyra Krassenburg. She was very much helped into that spin then from the car behind with the split 50-50 livery. She'll be fuming inside the cockpit for a few seconds before she regathers herself there. Kyra Krassenburg, but Eldar Noohi is the leader. So we've had two separate incidents over almost exactly the same portion of the racetrack. Ismael Fernandez has got by Richard Lucas already. And has a further 9 seconds to catch Kyra Krassenburg, and we'll be rubbing our hands together there to await those two sharing the track once again. Keep Going Channel has tuned in, but unfortunately my Ukrainian is not good, and I cannot read your comment, unfortunately. So if you would like me to include you in the broadcast, do try and translate that one to English for me, if possible. This is Andy Philpott in P6, in between two cars. He's got Rodrigo Bassalo in the turquoise livery car in front, and Dmytro Zalozhnikov in the 696 dark blue livery there, following him behind. Andy Philpott, who started at the very back of the grid here for qualifying, after qualifying, and he's managed to get himself tremendously up into the top half of the grid, P6. But I don't think he's had enough at that point. I think he's still gunning for more. There is Dmytro Zalozhnikov then with a great slipstream. These F4 cars really can follow one another nicely with their very simplified aerodynamics. He'll try and wait for the last moment to peel across to the inside. This is going to be a dive bomb. If it's going, he shapes once, twice, almost, but well avoided with contact there, Dmytro Zalozhnikov. I hope he's not drinking and driving, but his picture showed him enjoying a libation or two, as we see Gergo Danko dropping down the order. Not quite sure what has happened to Gergo Danko. He was following Kamto Chukureh, so my suspicion is that he's been off the circuit at some point. He was in 3rd position. That promotes Ukrainian lead driver Illia Rakitin into P3 at this stage. Eldar Noohi, though, still your leader by 1.3 seconds. It's looking like quite a comfortable gap as we head towards the final third of this race, and Gergo Danko should be able to pick up a new place there. That looks like we've had a problem for his rival, who's just spilled the car off the track slightly, lost his run. That was Illia Rakitin back down again. So a very interesting situation here. This was perhaps, let's see what happens, as Gergo Danko defending heavily to the inside, but the better braking performance is naturally on the racing line on the outside of the circuit. We'll see if we have any kind of squeeze going on here. This is Illia Rakitin looking to try and keep that inside line for the next corner, and that was Gergo Danko out with 2 wheels on the grass. Not the quickest way to race. And Illia Rakitin then promoted to 3rd position. I wonder if we've got any cold tyres or any issues going on for Gergo Danko in the Racing Bulls livery. This is Rodrigo Bassalo, fully defensive against Andy Philpott, who has gapped the car behind now Dmytro Zalozhnikov and can focus fully on the car in front. This is a really hard place to follow a rival as we run through those famous Petit Le Mans S's here at RoadAtlanta, Michelin RoadAtlanta Raceway, to give it its full and proper title. And Andy Philpott then in 6th position. You can see the drivers snaking around from behind. I think that's Kyra Krassenburg right at the back of this group in 12th position. That's Scott Edwards then in the 444. No mistaking Scott Edwards on track. He's definitely gone for a very brightly coloured, noticeable livery, which I love to see. The car in front of him is Roma Sorokivskyi, who is in a very dark coloured livery, which will almost blend into some of the racing surface, and especially if we get any rain. Further action then. This is Gergo Danko great onboard shot for Gergo Danko from his T-cam as he tries to reel in that third place that used to belong to him, and Illia Rakitin took then, as we saw earlier on. So Gergo Danko, he'll be feeling a little bit of understeer through some of these corners. You see the driver just going over the white line there, just to widen the first corner. As we go on to the gyro cam for Kyra Krassenburg, you see some of the elevation change here. I'm not sure whether Kyra Krassenburg and Ismael Fernandez will be racing in VR, but some of our drivers will be enjoying the elevation here in the VR system. There's the car off on the track. That I think that might be Zalozhhnikov. Possibly. He's just dropped down the field in the 696, and all the drivers around have just gained positions. There he is, and that's the second time we've seen a driver lose it on the way in to the S's, and unfortunately he's trying really hard to recover the car, but he's waiting patiently. Little spin there, and I don't know that he was actually there was any contact. Looked like he just turned in to the corner, and that is another driver on the outside losing 2 positions to Scott Edwards and Kyra Krassenburg. That was Sorokivskyi, Roma Sorokivskyi in the 113 there, who lost a position on the way through. Kyra Krassenburg then, who started on the third row, dropped back to the back of the field then after contact on the first few corners, regained her position, maybe driving with a little bit of damage, but she did not pit to repair the car. She has Sorokivskyi on the inside of the following corner, but she holds firm, holds her line, and she will now follow Scott Edwards and go for the next overtake. Just under 3 minutes to go then in our sprint race, and we haven't seen our leaders for some time because there's not much change. It's Eldar Noohi, Chukwureh in second place, with Gergo Danko in third place, Illia Rakitin in fourth, and Rodrigo Bassalo just leading Andy Philpott very closely between them there in 5th and 6th position. Brandon Devine in 7th with Danylo Donets in 8th. And this is Gergo Danko versus Illia Rakitin. Gergo Danko round the outside on the way through turns 6 and 7. And back into, I think that is now third place for Gergo Danko. Illia Rakitin, though, will not let this one go easily. A podium is always a welcome situation for any driver, so they'll be pushing hard to try and secure that final trophy here. Oh, very busy racetrack as Kyra Krassenburg, Scott Edwards past Richard Lucas there. The split livery of, I think that's Danylo Donets in front of these two as well. Should be plenty of drama as we head on in towards the final few turns and final lap or so. There goes an overtake for Kyra Krassenburg. She's got that inside line hooked up really nicely, and the car in front goes off. That is going to be much slower then for, I think that's Danylo Donets, who loses both positions, and Kyra Krassenburg with a little hesitation. Naturally, Scott Edwards seemed to keep it pinned through that incident and has re-caught Krassenburg. This is Ismael Fernandez with a driver going very slowly and being passed. That looks like Zalozhhnikov. It's the same livery as Illia Rakitin, but Zalozhhnikov down in 13th place. This is the battle for the podium as Gergo Danko continues to fight with Rakitin, who's trying to get that podium back. Great to see the drivers pushing this hard. We're into the final few seconds then of our sprint race, 20-minute race to go. And I think the leaders may be able to actually finish this lap. Whether this podium is secure before the checkered flag remains to be seen, as you can see the clouds gathering overhead here in RoadAtlanta. That is a good overtake, possibly from Illia Rakitin, who takes the right-hand side of the track away and the apex. And look at this back and forth between the two rivals as Gergo Danko steals that inside line back again and across the line, picking up the white flag then for the final lap of this race. And again, Rakitin taking the wider line through the corner, but unfortunately it's not going to help him get any closer before they start to go through this famous switchback right left section. Eldar Noohi leads by 3.2 seconds to Chukwureh, who is 7 seconds ahead of Gergo Danko and Illia Rakitin, who are only thinking about this podium now as they head downhill towards the double right-hander Much faster than it looks on paper, turn 6, and then quite a bit slower than turn 6 through turn 7. But it is possibly the most important corner on the track to get the run that you need. I wonder if we will see any weaving. That's Gergo Danko fully committing to the inside lane here. Illia Rakitin taking his time and waiting, but committing to the outside line. Eldar Noohi is going to win the race, though, ahead of Kamto Chukureh, as we see the battle for the podium, and it's side-by-side action through the chicane. It's Gergo Danko, who looks like he's going to hold on here. He had the inside line through the next corner. It's Noohi, Chukureh, and Danko, your podium ahead of Illia Rakitin. What a great finish. Great debut from Rodrigo Bassalo as well, and Andy Philpott hangs on to 6th place ahead of Brandon Devine, who had a dramatic first part of the lap before the safety car. There is Kyra Krassenburg recovering to 8th place after all, and it is anyone's guess. It's a photo finish behind them. Danylo Donets ahead of Sorokivskyi and Scott Edwards. Ismael Fernandez looks like he is about to cross the line. We've seen Zalozhnikov and Lucas in 13th and 14th position. Ismael Fernandez debuting here in 12th place, but he'll be hoping for much more out of the feature race, which is coming up very, very soon. There's a moment then for everybody to take a breather. We'll have a look at some replays, and there'll be about 5-minute pause in the action before we head on in towards our feature race. So please don't go anywhere and be ready to cheer on your favourite driver later on. Well, thanks for your patience, folks. We're back getting ready to grid up for the feature race. Thanks to Keep Going Channel, to Rodolfo, cheering on Bassalo there, to hi to Yank the Tank as well, tuning in for his own server's friends, and good to get some support from all of you. If you haven't already spoken up, do say hello in the chat. We're ready for we're gridding up for the start of the next race. Of course, there is a small degree of reverse grid going on, but I think that's the top 10. So that's Eldar Noohi back with Kamto Chukureh in the midfield. Ismael Fernandez unfortunately did not pick up any reverse grid positions, finishing down in 12th. He'll start in 12th, and we get ready then for the feature race. 40 minutes for the highest points paying position. Remember that safety car is on standby, and also it's looking cloudy on track as well. Roma, Sorokivskyi and Danylo Donets look to be your top two then on the red lights, and it is drop the clutch and go as the rear wheels kick out the tyre smoke and dust from the racetrack as they get underway. It's Danylo Donets into the lead of the race. It's Kyra Krassenburg challenging for second place. We've got a three-way battle for second position. Let's hope we don't have the same situation as the first race. 3-4 times the drivers trading places on the way down the hill of the S's for this first time of asking. And Kyra Krassenburg very sensibly taking it slightly easier there. Illia Rakitin barging his way by as Gergo Danko goes to follow him through. It's Bassalo who's suffering, and he makes contact with our race one winner, Eldar Noohi, who drops down to the back of the grid. That looked to possibly be a two-car incident, but I will confirm in the replay. Here we go back, rewinding our action. We did see Eldar Noohi then suffer some contact with Rodrigo Bassalo. We don't know which way round blame would apply, but they are at the back of the grid then. So two cars coming together on the way through. That was a little bit of contact and a ping pong situation for Andy Philpott, who hits the car in front, then gets hit from behind as he runs through, and that allows several drivers to go for the overtake. Look at Gergo Danko, doesn't know which way to go. He's completely blocked here. This is a replay of the action. Fantastic racing for the F4 field, and Kyra Krassenburg finding her way into a middle of the road situation, completely blocking Gergo Danko. Kyra Krassenburg looks to have the inside line, but it's Philpott down the inside, loses the car slightly, regathers it, and steals a march then into the lead of this group of drivers. That's Kyra Krassenburg then following through. And I think we've got Gergo Danko on the hunt with Illia Rakitin there or thereabouts. You can see the brightly coloured cars of Ismael Fernandez and Scott Edwards not far behind this group as well. We've got a nice tight field, but up front is Danylo Donets ahead of Andy Philpott as he leads this multi-car battle pack as they scatter through the gravel and everything goes flying into the stones, kicking up all the way down the racetrack through the S's. That's going to leave us with very low grip conditions on the way through the S's for a couple of laps there. Drivers will have to follow the racing line. Danylo Donets leads by 1.7 seconds. And then we have a complete train of cars down to 13th place. Fantastic racing at the start of our feature race. That looks like it's Kyra Krassenburg fighting with Andy Philpott here for second position. They're side by side. You can see Danylo Donets with a good lead. Kyra Krassenburg has the racing line on the way through. I think Andy Philpott is yielding the corner to get the better exit and keep fighting rather than fighting too hard on the inside line. Kyra Krassenburg into second place. And that's Illia Rakitin with Gergo Danko not far behind. Brandon Devine having a much better start to the race. Everybody having a better start to the race with the exception possibly of Eldar Noohi. He's recovered back to 11th place ahead of Sorokivskyi, Lucas and Bassalo. But I think Krassenburg just washing out slightly, losing position to Philpott, and she'll try and regather her momentum. But that's Gergo Danko getting together with Illia Rakitin there. Very gentle contact, but enough just to allow him through. And this is absolutely perilous driving from all of them, who are nose to tail throughout the midfield here. Philpott, Krassenburg, Danko, Rakitin, Devine, Chukwureh, Edwards, Zalozhnikov, and Fernandez all together. And another good overtake then just behind there. That looked like Fernandez going through. And Philpott holding on to second place. There's Fernandez with the inside line, taken away by Zalozhnikov. So Fernandez dropping back down again in that Team Spirit reminiscent blue and yellow livery F4 car. Zalozhnikov then regaining position. There's your leader, just in picture then. 1.1 seconds, 1.0 seconds. Danko down the inside of Krassenburg, and Danko takes that position. Rakitin is going to try and follow through again. They're not satisfied with the action they managed to enjoy in the first race, of course, and they've had to work their way back through from, I think, row 4 or 5, as Krassenburg tries to force a narrow line from Rakitin there. Krassenburg going side by side. Danko challenging Philpott for second place as well, just ahead of this group. And it's great to see everybody fighting tooth and nail and cleanly as well. Beware though, Scott Edwards is at the back of this group and hoping to take advantage of any contact or slowing cars going through the next few corners. They're all over track limits on the exit of the S's as they head downhill. Krassenburg holding firm on the middle of the road, just trying to make sure that Rakitin doesn't go for a speculative move. Should be focusing though on the exit out of this corner, and that's also Danko's gone by Philpott on the approach, I think on the way through 6 and 7. Philpott with a good exit though, as they continue to fight really hard here, and Danylo Donets has not been able to gap this field to the point where he will walk away with a victory. We're 5 minutes into the start of this feature race. Danko holding firm on the inside line. Krassenburg with a very busy set of mirrors, as there's a great overtake from Kamto Chukureh, who put in a great clean overtake, and next past Rakitin, and then following through is Brandon Devine as well. Scott Edwards will try and queue up behind, and there's Rakitin just trying to stop Scott Edwards going for the move. Scott's got the inside line though, and he's not dissuaded, and he goes for it. And I think that has probably allowed Fernandez to catch through as well. So you lose one position in tight pack racing like this, and it just tumbles you down the field as you're offline, and you've opened the door to everybody else. That is your race one victor of Eldar Noohi. He'll be feeling like this race is still going to come back to him. The number 29, he's hoping to try and reel everybody in. His gap to the leader still only essentially 4.6 seconds, so it's definitely still on. Even if we're green flag all the way to the end, it's going to be absolutely fascinating. That is Kamto Chukureh on the inside then, and the number 14 of Kyra Krassenburg. Krassenburg just holding firm. The next turn is to the left, and then I think that is also going to be it looks like Brandon Devine hoping to follow Chukureh through, and well, yeah, that is Krassenburg just losing out as she tries to navigate that chicane, and Chukureh made his way by very nicely in P4 now. Chukureh, but he can still see the podium, which is Danylo Donets, Gergo Danko, and Andy Philpott. Danko very much eyeing up the potential victory at this point. There is Fernandez just losing out to race one winner. Oh, is it? Because they continued this battle, and that looked like Eldar Noohi losing the tail of the car, and they're all losing time then to Scott Edwards in front. Fernandez completely off. He tried to turn into the corner. There was a car on his inside, and he took avoiding action, but dropped down at least a position back with Illia Rakitin then, as he's the next one to try and take Kyra Krassenburg, who uses plenty of the curb on the apex of turn 6. Not far away then. Just great to see everybody so close together. This is probably the closest total race field we have had yet in the 2025 F4 Championship with the Ukrainian Racing League. And this is a battle for the outright lead of the race. This is Gergo Danko with a good line on the way into the corner, and I see rain on the racetrack as well. It is absolutely coming down very quickly on that particular corner anyway, through the chicane and around turn 11. There is some more rain. I don't think it'll be affecting the grip levels just yet. The racetrack is still 34 degrees centigrade, but we're up to 90% humidity. There is a very early pit stop from Eldar Noohi. The drivers start with 60% fuel up. they could reach the end with some lift and coast, but I wonder if we're thinking about tyres at this stage of proceedings as the drivers, the whole grip plan and the form book will be turned on its head as the drivers now have to navigate the rain conditions, famously incredibly difficult in iRacing. And there is Fernandez, who I happen to know in his championship winning league he was part of this season, was dying for rain the entire season and never got a single drop throughout the course of his championship reign and campaign. But here he is, his first race with us, and he's got what he was hoping for all year long. That's Gergo Danko with Danylo Donets side by side. Sorry, that's Chukwureh and Danylo Donets. So Chukwureh is on the move, and Donets is falling back as the rain starts to fall. We'll see if anybody takes any form of intermediate or wet tyres here. But for the now, I would imagine with the lack of spray, lack of standing water, the drivers are just coping with this. That's a good overtake then from, let me see, that was Zalozhnikov in the Team RLR colours, or lack of colours, as he goes through past Ismael Fernandez. And we see lots of drivers heading into the pit lane. Eldar Noohi has gone down to 12th place. I can't see from my information what tyres the drivers are currently on, so I don't know if they've decided to take intermediates, but it would be very early in the proceedings if that is what they've decided to do. I wonder if there was any damage on the car. Devine's in the pits as well, so both Devine and Eldar Noohi and Philpott, I think, have made a decision to head on into the pit lane here. This is Fernandez living with the grip at the moment and chasing down his rival Zalozhnikov as they go side by side through turn 6 in towards turn 7. Zalozhnikov holding firm on the inside. Good respect from both drivers here, and I think that is probably going to affect Ismael Fernandez as he heads down the long straightaway. Slight kinks of turns 8 and 9, and he'll give up a little bit of slipstream to the car behind, but the slipstream effect is reduced in the rain, and the visibility is reduced as well. You can see a little bit of spray kicked up at the back. It's going to be a voyage into the unknown as they brake heavily down in towards the chicane here, and ultimately Ismael Fernandez ended up having to give up the inside line there as Dmytro Zalozhnikov goes in. Fernandez says, "I've had enough. It's time. It's pit stop time for me." We're 11 minutes down into the 40-minute feature race, and there you can see lots of spray kicked up. Wet tyres confirmed on Devine, Philpott, Noohi, Sorokivskyi, and Lucas. I imagine everybody is going to go the same way. Gergo Danko is putting wet tyres on right now. And he will drop back into the clutches. We'll see how good a decision that was from Noohi. Was it early, or was it absolutely on the money in terms of timing? He's gone very early, but he was quite far back in the order. Has he been able to get those at the temperature and working, dispelling the water, giving him the grip that the slick tyres cannot? Danylo Donets. Sorry, the wet is faster, I think I'm hearing. So Danylo... Okay, I just need that repeated one more time. So the slick tyre, the dry tyre, is the fastest tyre right now to be on. We'll see though what kind of level of confidence the drivers have got though, as half the field have gone for the wets. We'll see if these two decide to go in as well. Kamto Chukureh leading the order with Illia Rakitin. This is Danylo Donets and Scott Edwards. They're across on the right-hand side of the track. They're in towards the pit lane entry, and this will be a wet tyre decision for them. Rakitin leads from Chukwureh, and they're feeling confident. It's one of those positive or negative spirals you get yourselves into when it comes to the dry tyre, wet tyre decision. If you start losing confidence, you start going offline, your tyres get colder and things just get worse. But if you keep that confidence, you keep your tyre temperature, you feel like you're on another level than the rest of the drivers. So almost everybody now on wet tyres, and there's a spin from Rakitin. He'll be glad of that asphalt there, just picking up the asphalt on the way through the S's on the exit of turn 5. He'll be glad that he managed to do a 360 straight onto a nice patch of asphalt and get the tyres cleaned up quickly. The only car at the moment still on dry tyres, is Illia Rakitin. Gergo Danko is in second place. It's a closely fought field, I can see, between Fernandez, Devine, Zalozhnikov, but no surprises to see. Well, I am surprised to see Eldar Noohi, who was the first driver to pit, still down in 10th place and not able to really pick up a great deal of positions. I think it was a little bit too early, but the race is still young and there's still plenty of time to make up for a slightly less than perfect option on the tyres. This is Zalozhnikov in the 696. He's running behind Brandon Devine, who wants to get by as quickly as possible so he can get a nice clear run, a clear view out of his visor. If we go on board with any of our rivals, hopefully we'll be able to see just how difficult the visibility actually is when you're following another driver. Here is Zalozhnikov. There you can see the track being somewhat obliterated from our view, and he's got the car on the inside now. Finally, he can get a clear view, but for the halo on the inside of his cockpit, and then a little bit of a washout there. But I think it was good driving from Devine, who managed to anticipate that Zalozhnikov would probably not take the perfect fair line through the corner. The 57, Brandon Devine, living to fight on. 15 minutes into our 40-minute race. Gergo Danko leads by just 0.3 of a second only from Kamto Chukureh, who, don't forget, was at the back of the top 10 in 9th place after the reverse grid qualifying situation from the sprint race. He is now following. This is Danko, and they're catching. I think that's Lucas possibly in the McDonald's livery, red and yellow, and they're coming up to lap Lucas, and they're hoping to get by nice and cleanly. Chukwureh taking the wet line, as it were, getting off the racing line to find the asphalt with less rubber on the surface, and he's fully alongside here. He hasn't been able to get much in the way of slipstream, but he's got a nice clear view on the visor. This should be a good opportunity then for him to brake with confidence on the outside entry and hold on to the right-hand side of the track as he goes in. Little kick out from the rear of the car. They're going flying. Lucas is off in the background, and I think he'll have to give that place back. Chukwureh, it was an overtake, but it was an overtake made off the circuit. We'll see if he gives that back. I'll keep my eye on the tower for you as Brandon Devine goes for a run down the inside, and another car exits completely off the racing surface there. Just can't find any grip on the outside. That's probably down to the standing water on the outside. And there is Eldar Noohi. What's he like in the rain? Well, he's hovering and staying around P10 at the moment, but he's got Rodrigo Bassalo, our debut driver here at the F4 Championship in the number 2. Eldar Noohi in P10. Dmytro Zalozhnikov not far away in front of this group. Gergo Danko leads us by just 0.6 of a second. It's absolutely fantastic to see people so close together in pace. I can tell the drivers have been putting in the practice a lot since Laguna Seca. Not too different a track here for the drivers. Still lots of undulation, lots of gradient change and camber differences on the corner, and a little bit of a wheel hook there from Eldar Noohi, inadvertent on Bassalo, but he was more than halfway past. I think that will pass by the stewards without trouble. The onus on Bassalo, I think, there to navigate, to make his own arrangements once the car is more than halfway past, and that means Noohi is up to 9th place, but his deficit to the lead, which we're watching right now, this is Danko on the inside from Chukwureh. Great to see our leaders battling so hard through here, even though it's raining cats and dogs, as we say in the UK. It is pouring with rain. The track is just getting wetter and wetter. The temperatures are coming down. The mud, the puddles are building, and they're trying to survive here as we approach the halfway portion of our race, and that is Gergo Danko with a good line through the next corner. Here we are on board then. Great to see as we go through the S. You can see the corrections going in the steering, and you tip the car in, then you opposite lock, and you're just constantly balancing the front axle here, and depending what the weight transfer wants to do. And it's great to see how hard the drivers are working. Normally this would just be so easy with the steering. They know what they're doing in the dry, but the wet, of course, throws a spanner in the works, and they're always adjusting that steering wheel. they forget straight away, especially VR drivers, but generally speaking, all drivers forget about the thong post in the front, or the flip-flop post down the central line of the car. They forget about that very quickly, as generally speaking, their camera or their VR helmet looks at the apex of the corner. And here is Gergo Danko kicking up no end of spray and water into the face of Kamto Chukureh, who would rather not be on the racing line on the way into this corner, I imagine. It does look like it's very difficult to stop the car down here. Let's see if he can hold on and get the car turned in. He's got some great performance and then really good, stylish sideways overtake from Chukureh. Then back into the lead of the race, much cleaner than the previous run. And Chukureh back then into P1. Eldar Noohi going wheel to wheel with a former leader of the race, Danylo Donets, who has somewhat fallen from that position, and he's now down in 8th position. Eldar Noohi's deficit to the outright lead still some 21 seconds, but he's up to 7th place now and clearly matching the leaders for pace, but he's not that much quicker, I don't think, at this stage of the race. So we've got big differences between the drivers. Eldar Noohi with a 33, I saw Illia Rakitin with a 35 on that lap, and some 14 seconds slower than the dry times. I'm surprised it's actually so little as they come to pass Richard Lucas again. We've got Kyra Krassenburg down in 14th place. I wonder if off camera she's had some issues to drop back to the back of the grid there behind Lucas, who's now being lapped, I think, by the mid-pack rather than the leaders we saw earlier on. So Lucas some 20 minutes halfway into the race, with Kyra Krassenburg more than a lap down. And she may have exited, but there was Lucas off into the wall as he tries to avoid the drivers coming through. Looks like Lucas will, that looked like possibly that would be race-ending damage for Lucas, maybe, as he clattered into the wall. We didn't quite see whether he kept the wheels on the car as we watch on with Brandon Devine. And here is Eldar Noohi. Brandon Devine will be feeling a little bit nervous having Noohi behind him. Drivers will all have watched the race back at least once, if not twice afterwards, to study who they need to be most careful of. Noohi with a good inside line here. I think the better position is to defend the middle of the track here, as you see going on in the background. And there's Devine completely off. He completely misjudges the braking performance of his F4. He's going to cut across the racetrack, but I'm sure release Noohi back by. There he is. In fact, was probably a bit too generous for his own good there. Allowing Noohi a hugely faster run through the final corner than he himself managed. And that is Noohi then up to 6th place. And so look at his deficit. It's still 21 seconds because he's having to navigate these other drivers. Chukwureh leads by 1.9 seconds now. That lead at the front, as big as it has been the entire race. And Eldar Noohi is in the number 29. He's running in 6th place, and you can see still struggling, even a driver of his quality, as the rain appears to have stopped, but the standing water is let's say the rain has stopped, and then it picks up on the camera straight away again immediately. So maybe it stopped in certain parts of the track, but clearly the south half of the racetrack, or particularly maybe the uncovered cameras, you can still see the rain on the screen as they run through then Noohi through turns 6 and 7. He's got Scott Edwards in 4th place ahead of him. In front of Scott Edwards, Illia Rakitin, some 6 seconds further up the road. And we've got some three-way battling going on. Danylo Donets, who was the leader of the race in the dry conditions, perhaps waited a little bit too long to put the wet tyres on in comparison to Eldar Noohi, who perhaps pulled the trigger a little bit early. Here is this is, oh, look at that huge puddle on the inside of turn 10. That's very, very tricky to deal with. You see the amount of standing water that has developed, and as they crest over these blind apex corners, it's going to be just trusting to faith that the track is in a similar condition to the last time you went through, but dealing with those corrections on the way through. Meanwhile, you've got a car who is pressuring you like crazy behind. Massive spin then from Zalozhnikov, and that looked like aquaplaning for him as he crossed the wake of the car behind. A big moment, as you can see. We go to turn in, and the second we put a tiny bit of steering into the car, oh, I wonder if you put a wheel out onto the wet portion, onto the white line, or even over the white line, and hit some mud on the exit there of on the entry into turn 1. But he's dropped back then, Zalozhnikov. This is Kamto Chukureh in the number 14, leading by 2.4 seconds. This is a great opportunity for him. He's made up positions. He had 1 place ahead of his main rival at this stage of the championship, Eldar Noohi, and he's hanging on to that time differential. Eldar Noohi is actually dropping back slightly to 22.8 seconds. That's almost a 2-second loss, Eldar Noohi, on the last few laps to the outright leader, and we have him within a second of Scott Edwards. And I think that is Richard Lucas, who thankfully is still with us there. It looks like Kyra Krassenburg has got back on the circuit and has been able to repair the car, but that looked like a very lengthy stay in the pit lane for Krassenburg, who will prefer to forget today's race, I think, overall. And it's a shame because the drivers put in so much practice. It's massive. There's almost a lake in the middle of those 2 corners with the camber towards the apex. It's almost better to stay on the outside, I wonder, at this stage, as we really are pooling the water all over the one. 2 laps, I'm being told by race control, Kyra Krassenburg was in the pits. So yeah, a really big problem for the Dutch racer there. Just learning her way around iRacing, but this is yeah, very difficult for her. But she'll every lap, every corner she turns will be more and more experience. And of course, for newcomers to iRacing, the learning curve is incredibly steep, but it can be quite quick if you do start to get it hooked up. You can start to catch the drivers in front, and the fastest way to learn is to drive with faster drivers than yourself. So I'm sure she will continue to fight hard, and it's great to see her not give in and keep pushing to hopefully the end of the race, which is going to come in 14.5 minutes time, but out of position at the moment, unfortunately. Very quick driver in the dry and on different sim platforms, but today it's not the day. That's Kamto Chukureh, our race leader, who has gone off. We have to see that again if at all possible, because he is now, that's a massive drift going in. Let's have a look. I wonder if he's hit some standing water on the middle, but he seemed to lose the car on the way in to the final corner. And wow, that was a real panic moment for Gergo Danko, who, once he survived that and started breathing again, will be smiling in the helmet. Imagine if we go on board with that, with Gergo Danko as he comes through. That's going to be incredibly difficult to find. Let's have a look how this went down. You're just focusing on the car in front. You can see he's having a moment, and then is it left or is it right? Is it left or is it right? Thankfully, he managed to pause his acceleration and go to the right-hand side. It looked like Ismael Fernandez going into the pit lane, which surprises me at this point on the back end of that one. But he's back in the lead then, Gergo Danko, and has a 5-second lead over Kamto Chukureh, who at least for him, he has regathered to 2nd place. But this really is an important day in the championship, I feel, for Chukureh to outscore his main rival from the first round of the championship, Eldar Noohi. He's now only 2 places in front of him, and of course, some 15 seconds the gap has dropped. Eldar Noohi's really picking up the pace now, and he is only 19.5 seconds away as we continue to swim our way through that final chicane. It really is a very, very difficult set of conditions for our drivers as they run through. So Mrs. Krassenburg is here to support Kyra. That's great. We've been really been following Kyra's trials and tribulations this race, but I'm sure she'll be very pleased to see that she has support here in the live chat as well. That is Illia Rakitin. Rakitin running P3, and he'll be somewhat consoled by the fact that Chukwureh is not invincible as he comes to lap. I think that must be Rodrigo Bassalo, our debut driver, and this is Zalozhnikov, excuse me, now following Bassalo. This is nice and close, 3/4 of a second. That is not the best line in the wet from Zalozhnikov behind, who's had a little spill already. And he'll now have incredibly dirty, dirt-clogged wet tyre grooves in his in his left-hand side, and that's going to be very difficult. In fact, Zalozhnikov has disappeared off the back of this group. It was only he's dropping like a stone. I think he's been off the circuit, Zalozhnikov. Unfortunately, he was less than a second behind Bassalo. There he is, the 696, fallen into the clutches of Danylo Donets. So we'll see if there was an issue for Zalozhnikov. But I wonder if those dirty tyres I was talking about did seem to cause him a problem as he turned in to turn 1. There it is. In fact, yes, that was a sideways moment. In fact, he's having to almost drive the wrong way to do a spin turn back, but you're just asking too much of those wet tyres if you're going to fill them full of grass and mud. And then this was so this is after the incident, back live then, going through the double right, and that is Illia Rakitin. Sorry, that is Danylo Donets right behind him. Danylo Donets, don't forget, started on the front row, was leading the race at the start of our race, but certainly I think this rain has exposed a different level in some of our drivers, and some of our drivers have found themselves lacking a little bit of wet weather experience and pace. But this is a somewhat unusual set of circumstances and track combination for everybody. Here is Illia Rakitin. Rakitin running in P3, very much on his own here. You can see Kamto Chukureh, who is now recatching Gergo Danko. Looks like Chukwureh has the outright pace advantage with just 1/4 of our race left to go, and I think that's Fernandez just in the grass on the in the rear of the camera. He's been overtaken there. He's been lapped, sorry, by Kamto Chukureh, and Fernandez was just struggling to navigate turn 7 in the background. Thankfully, he's got a nice brightly coloured car. It helps me spot their liveries very nicely. As Eldar Noohi in 4th position, he's reeling in Illia Rakitin and could find his way onto the podium here. There's still plenty of laps left to go, probably another 5 or 6, I would have thought, before we get to the end of our 40-minute counter. But of course, the wet laps much slower now, especially with this amount of standing water. And there you can see Eldar Noohi, perhaps a little bit of experience, a little bit of elite driver thinking, keeping 2 wheels out of the puddles going through the chicane, giving up. Oh, that's Fernandez off again. That's Fernandez spinning on the way out of the final corner. Does look like our newcomers are struggling with the wet conditions here, and that is no way to go racing. And you wouldn't even want to mow the lawn, it's so wet at this point. So he needs to be very careful out there on the next few corners. And of course, he's got the S's to contend with. Just tips it in, a little bit of overspeed, and then, oh, that's huge. That's a really big one. For a moment there, he lost a wheel or two, but they were reattached nicely for him. So he's off, and he's struggling. I think he's going to reset down to the pit lane, get towed back to the pit lane, and that will cost him a huge amount of time. But it's probably at least going to help Lucas and Krassenburg move up. We've been missing Andy Philpott for a long while. I don't remember what happened to Philpott in the course of the race. I think unfortunately that happened away from our camera positions, but Andy Philpott is now 5 laps down on the leader, 2 laps down on 13th position, and still behind Ismael Fernandez. So unfortunately, Philpott had some great pace, especially in the dry at the start of the race. A little bit like our Danylo Donets in the split livery. There's Scott Edwards in the pit lane. I don't know. I haven't seen Andy Philpott's car anywhere. I don't know if he's had to retire the car or he is just still repairing. Kyra Krassenburg, though, P11, and I think if she can get herself home here and be catching P10, I think she'll count that as actually a decent enough recovery. Gergo Danko leads the race only by 0.6 of a second, and now not only are you contending with the conditions there, but peering through out of the back wing here of Gergo Danko's car, you can just see Kamto Chukureh, who has huge pace coming out of the previous corner. What a great run for Chukwureh. This is the long run downhill in towards turn 6, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, turn 6, and which forms into turn 7, and he turns across the car. Looks like, unfortunately, Gergo Danko with understeer. Hopefully for Chukwureh, he'll have avoided actual damage. I didn't see any parts coming off the car there. Looked like a wheel entanglement, and then falling back down onto the car. This is they're still going to run though. Looks like the car is working fine because he's still competing. The number 14 racing with Fernando Alonso's number, Kamto Chukureh, as they head down in towards that chicane. And he's being very careful on the brakes here. Doesn't really want to put himself on the outside of Gergo Danko again, as they both go swishing the water to the outside of the circuit and making it through the chicane comfortably. That was a big moment there. It didn't look very big for Gergo Danko, but I promise you he will have held his breath as he turned into the final corner. The car stepping out, he had to get off the accelerator. The thing is, in these conditions, you can't afford to stamp on the brakes with an accident. That's a replay of the helicopter shot of what happened earlier. I can't really rule on that one. You'll have to let me know in the comments who you think was in the right or the wrong there. But ultimately, they've come together. But they continue to fight, and that's what we want to see. We want to see the drivers be able to keep fighting, even if that means ceding a position in the moment, losing a battle in order to win the outright war here on the circuit. So Gergo Danko, P1, holding on ahead of Kamto Chukureh for now. So Chukureh, this is going to help Eldar Noohi though, and Chukureh will be very, very aware of this. Eldar Noohi is in third place. He is still 17 seconds away from the lead of the race, but that has reduced by a good amount, probably 5 seconds since they came out. Lini is saying Eldar Noohi is stunning, amazing. Certainly is. He struggled away from the line a little bit at the start of this race. This is Chukureh and Danko continuing to fight over the outright win. And now you can see just how much water there is on the inside of turn 10A, the second part of the final chicane. Rain is still falling at certain parts of the racetrack. It looks fairly dry, but not by the sign of all of this spray. Danko peels to the inside. He knows he's vulnerable here. And then Chukureh will just hope that Danko holds on, and that's round the outside. Partly that's Danko's run out of the final corner being less than ideal. But partly that was just great bravery on the outside from Chukureh. Just washing out slightly as they go through turn 3 and 4. This is the S's section, the famous Petit Le Mans S section, where you get all the fantastic pictures of the race cars in the sunrise or sunset conditions coming through here. Look at the amount of spray kicking off just the front tyres of our Formula 4 cars. We're in towards the 36th minute of the 40, and the countdown begins then. And Chukureh, that's where he came together with Danko on the previous lap. Chukureh still not able to really get the car hooked up into the apex. Maybe he's avoiding that apex because there's standing water there. I'm not entirely certain at this stage, but Chukureh leads by half a second only from Gergo Danko. Chukureh has seemingly had the pace, but he's also spilled the car on his own today. So that is, it's still very much not settled here. He brakes hard on the middle of the road, really stopping Danko from committing to the inside or the outside alongside the driver in front. And that will be how Chukureh will plan to run the end of this race. Nearly 37 minutes are on the clock. Should be 2 more laps if my mid-race maths are correct, as Chukureh is in P1 ahead of Gergo Danko. The closest fight on the field is over because Danko is off on the grass going into turn 1. I don't think that was anything to do with Chukureh. I think that's just Danko unable to get the front axle turned in and the rear of the car to follow. Ended up with exceptional understeer going into turn 1. But of course he's pushing, and this is what you want from the drivers, to just be fully committed to every corner. They don't want to be playing it too safe. There's Scott Edwards with a similar result, but that's oversteer with the rear spinning round behind him. Zalozhnikov, as the car gets so unloaded as it goes over that crest, it gets light, almost to the point where the drivers would be feeling their stomachs moving in their body as they go over that one. It's a little bit like Eau Rouge without quite the same amount of speed. But Kamto Chukureh is absolutely in the lead of this race now by 6.6 seconds. He'll be maximising the points if he can hang on here. He knows Eldar Noohi is not far away I would imagine he'll be aware of where Noohi is now at this point. Should be able to see P3 on his race display. Ukrainian Racing League there, the admin just interacting with Lenny, saying it is amazing how he's gone up that far. But you have to take your hat off here to Kamto Chukureh, who crosses the line with 1 minute 30 to go. I think this will make it the final lap for him. We will wait to see though, because the time is not quite on the money. It looks like they're racing in the mid 1 minute 34s, so I think we will be on the final lap then for the Irishman Kamto Chukureh for Mappy Esports, and this almost a parade lap then for him if he can just hold on. He has no need to push at this point, but he doesn't want to switch off either and lose focus. We've seen so much rain today. It has been absolutely fantastic to see the drivers compete with not just each other, but with the track as well. It does appear to be Kamto Chukureh's favourite line through turn 6. Just a very wide line on the outside there. Just to go back through the order, we don't really have any close battles happening. Bassalo's not too far away from Devine for 5th position. And Danko is equidistant between Chukureh here and Eldar Noohi. Down to the final few seconds of the clock, 20 seconds to go. That might just bring Chukureh into another lap if he doesn't feel like just holding on here. Sometimes drivers will do that if they know the clock is running out and they've got a good gap. He's got about 6 seconds left to go. I think the time will elapse. It will. The clock will go dead. And Kamto Chukureh takes the checkered flag and wins in a very wet Michelin RoadAtlanta. A great display of wet weather driving. Hats off to Gergo Danko as well for showing what he's made of in his F4 car. Eldar Noohi will take the checkered flag in 3rd place, fighting back from a 10th place start there with the reverse grid. And this looks like Brandon Devine. That will definitely please him after a problem at the start of the sprint race. Brandon Devine, number 57, hopefully coming home in 5th place. Illia Rakitin is about to cross the line. I think he may have crossed the line at this stage in 4th place, just ahead between Noohi and Devine. And Rodrigo Bassalo, probably rookie of the day, I would say, debut driver, and finishing inside the top 10 in both of our rounds. Great racing. Remember to stay with us because hopefully we will hear from some of our drivers after the race. Hopefully they'll be pretty happy, the ones we start to talk with anyway. And there's Bassalo then. I know we've got fans watching for Rodrigo Bassalo, the Portuguese driver. Danylo Donets with the blue and red split car. He comes through the 161. Danylo Donets then, who comes through the 2nd of the Ukrainians, 7th overall, with Dmytro Zalozhnikov behind him in 8th place. The black and grey Roma Sorokivskyi, he is in the 113. He is side by side with a driver with a very similar livery there, but Sorokivskyi will come through hopefully momentarily and take home 9th position. Then we should see the brightly coloured Scott Edwards not far away. There he is, the 444 from the UK. One of 2 UK drivers we've got in the field, Scott Edwards in P10. I think this will probably be a slightly disappointing day for Scott Edwards. There you can see the middle of the track is the drier line. And unfortunately for Scott Edwards, as the camera focuses on him, cutting over the track there, just running out of grip. But unthreatened from behind, so no real problems for him. Krassenburg crosses the line on the Krassenburg, and she crosses over to take home 11th place. Lucas has gone 12th. Ismael Fernandez is in the pit lane and finishes 8 laps down, unfortunately, but will be classified 13th, I believe, ahead of Andy Philpott, who may unfortunately have disconnected, because I haven't seen his car for a long time as we go past the pit lane. So that is that's your result. It's Kamto Chukureh from Eldar. No, it's not from Eldar Noohi, unless Danko's been given a post-race penalty, but he's dropped back. I think it should be Danko in 2nd place and Eldar Noohi in 3rd place. I can see Eldar Noohi as the fastest driver to make it to the voice chat. So hopefully we will speak with him, and then we'll see if anybody else can be brought together. But Eldar Noohi, reflect on your race, your 2 races so far for us. How was that for you, and how difficult a day was it in the rain?
It was difficult. It was very difficult, especially at the start of the feature race. Unfortunately, I got damage at the start. I don't know if that was netcode. I felt like I left a lot of space, but I don't know. I have to review that. And the performance in the rain, the pace in the rain was not bad, but it was just so unfortunate that I had to pit so early for that fast repair, to get a fast repair, to get the car repaired, because it was so dangerous to drive. I mean, my rear wing was just the car was just all over the place, and yeah. But the sprint went good, and I think I'm happy with this result. If we are getting P2, I don't know what happened to Gergo at the end, but yeah, I see on my results page that I think he dropped,
Yeah.
maybe because of penalties, but I don't know.
Well, we shall wait for confirmation from race control on that one. But as you say,
Yep.
tricky in the rain. It looked very difficult.
Yeah. Uh, I had
Okay.
also a problem with off tracks. I don't know.
Yeah, it looked like it was a really tough day holding on, but I'm really pleased to tell you we've got our feature race winner, Kamto Chukureh, who's joined us as well. Kamto, talk us through that one. You look like that was fairly difficult, but you were the fastest out there in the wet conditions. Just a bit of a problem passing Gergo Danko at one point.
Yeah, I don't actually know what happened still. I thought I left enough space on the inside, so I went around the outside because it was better for the on a wet track. You're better on going around the outside. So I went around the outside, and then he drove into the side of me and spun me around, damaged my wheel, which was kind of frustrating. So, but I didn't go fully around, which is handy like I did before. So I was able to keep the car straight this time and managed to get the lead back the next lap against Gergo. But yeah, not the most ideal like last 10 minutes or 15 minutes having that crash, but like I'm happy like it worked out in the end and managed to win by over 10 seconds, and which I wasn't expecting to win first of all, and also like 10 seconds in the rain as well.
But yeah, I mean, you were easily the fastest car on track. Is this normal for you in the rain? Is this something of a specialty of yours?
In previous seasons, I was not good in the rain at all. No, I would usually be like a second and a half to 2 seconds off the pace. So I did try before the session to try different lines in the wet to see what would work and what wouldn't, because I drove this track for Petit Le Mans last week, and the lines you take in the wets are sort of similar, but like not entirely similar. So I was trying to learn that in an F4 car because obviously the whole different car and a bit slower. But when I got the hang of that, eventually it was working out until I spun myself. But it was fine. I worked out in the end.
Oh, congratulations! It must be a really satisfying way to finish with a good point haul overall. So yeah, hopefully, how are you feeling about the next round of the championship?
If it's raining again, I'd be very happy because I think that's the only way I'm going to be able to like fight with Eldar. Because in the dry, in the sprint race, he saw he pulled a 3 second gap in me, even with a safety car, and that was me with giving everything I could. So if there's more wet races, I think with the pace I have, I'll be able to match Eldar. But it just depends how the weather works for next week in the future races as well.
Well, don't spend too much of your practice time rain dancing for the next round. Hopefully, we can you can get some good pace in the dry too. But congratulations, a really successful day's racing here at URL. It's good to see as well. Illia Rakitin has joined us. Illia Rakitin, hopefully you're okay speaking English with me. But
Yep.
congratulations. How was your race and your day here at RoadAtlanta?
Yeah. Hey there. Race overall wasn't. Both races were not bad. I mean, in the feature race, have done a couple of mistakes, cost myself quite a lot of time, but I suppose that's what driving in the wet does to people. It was not enough practice. Overall, it's been, well, I'd say quite intense with all the fighting and all the, well, fighting with other people and fighting with my car in this beautiful, lovely weather. Other than that, well, I mean, guys have been putting like crazy lap times. Gergo and Kamto both like flew away in the rain, so had no chance to catch them. But well, we'll be practicing a bit more, and hopefully we'll be able to catch up to them. But we will see in the next rounds, I suppose.
Absolutely, it was a little bit difficult to see your car and your livery out there in the murky and rainy conditions. I could do with a little bit of brightness somewhere on the design, but I'm sure it looks really good in the dry.
Yeah,
But
I
overall,
might
are
have
you
to
fairly
rethink that.
satisfied?
Sorry?
No, you carry on. What were you saying?
Oh, sorry. I say I should probably rethink a bit of my livery, or like make another brighter one for the wet stages or something like that.
No problem.
That
Well,
would be
yeah.
handy.
Well done out there for surviving. It looked like a really difficult day's racing, but you had some great moments out there, especially fighting with Danko in the sprint race. I do think that was very, very entertaining. So congratulations to you. Looks like
Thank you.
we've got Andy Philpott, which I'm excited to hear about because I've been struggling to piece together what happened to Andy Philpott. Come in, Andy, and tell us what happened at the end of your feature race there.
So it all started off pretty well. It was going as well as expected as I could hope for. I did rear end my teammate sadly because I just ended up getting anchored on the curb. Then as soon as the wets came, I gambled going for some wet tires when it started raining. Thought it was going to get wetter quicker. It didn't, so I ended up bogging down and went to the back. And as soon as the rain did hit, wasn't expecting it, and I ended up losing control, getting damaged. So I pitted for repairs, and it just basically got worse and worse from then on. So
Did you end up disconnecting, or was it a case of it was just not worth repairing the car?
At that point I was 3 laps down, so there was no way I was going to get anywhere from it. So I just ended up retiring out of it. So
Well, thanks for staying with us anyway to fill us in there. So nothing hugely dramatic, but just a few incidents that ended up damaging the car too much. What about your sprint race? You look competitive in that one in the dry.
yeah, I felt pretty solid within it. It was I've just literally upgraded all my sims, so I'm getting used to it still. And we've just moved house, so I had about 10 minutes of practice before I was up and ready to go for it, as we've been sorting it out all day. So
Oh, not
yeah,
ideal.
I
Not
didn't
ideal.
have much
Yeah.
practice.
No, you do
But
want a little bit more practice than that. Hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, you've got plenty of time to get ready. We've got Hungaroring coming on October 26th. Somewhat of a different challenge. How are you feeling about that one coming up?
yeah, I feel pretty confident for the Hungaroring. I've always been pretty well suited for the track. It's one that is quite flowy, but obviously if you do get it wrong around there, it's not forgiving at all. So you just got to be really careful.
Oh, fantastic! Well, thank you so much for staying with us, so that we can just explain the situation with the end of your race. Hopefully, you'll have a bit more fortune out next time. Like I say, we are back on the channel with this championship on October 26th, same time, of course, on a Sunday. It's been great to be able to call these races here for Ukrainian Racing League, and in support of these great drivers as well. International field we've got for you, and it's been great to watch them tackle with a dry and a wet Michelin RoadAtlanta Raceway. Thanks everybody for watching. It's been a real pleasure, and catch us in 2 weeks' time for round 3.